One of the biggest ways we cause emissions is through the food that we buy and consume. And my feeling is that there's a great deal we can do to improve on that. And it's not just about the food miles that we can look at, it's also actually the way that our food is produced. I'm a farmer based out at Laddock, and we've been very interested in the carbon footprint of our farm, as well as some other aspects of livestock production. And we were founder members of something called the Pasture-Fed Livestock Association back in 2010. And what we've been working to since 2009 is actually getting to a place where, rather than being an emitter of carbon, we're actually a net sequestrator of carbon, as well as producing our animals in a far more environmentally friendly way and a lot more naturally, let's say. Now, up until 2009, we were just a very normal mixed farm and grew cereals and fed those to our beef cattle in the winter. And then it just gradually became apparent that with after a long series of wet summers, that growing cereals just to feed to animals wasn't just wasteful of resources, but also really very hard work. And with the best will in the world, we couldn't, with our soil and climate, grow cereal crops that were good enough for people to eat. And so we were just growing something to feed to animals. And ruminant animals are not really designed to eat cereals and starch. And frankly, we realised that if we chose the right breed of animals and the right quality of pasture, we could do nearly as well in terms of their growth and actually produce much better kind of meat in terms of its nutrient value. And at the same time, rather than emitting carbon, we could sequester carbon. Now, how do we know this? It's because in the year 2008-9 we carried out a carbon audit which showed that our farm was emitting somewhere over 300 tonnes per year of carbon overall. Just about 2 tonnes per acre, you could say. Now, that doesn't sound like a huge amount, I suppose, but that amounted to around about 30 people's worth of carbon emissions at our current rate. The majority of that carbon was being produced not by the livestock we kept, but actually by the farming practices. Every time you take grassland and plough it up and turn it into cereals, you emit a lot of carbon from the soil. Every time you turn an arable field back into grass, you begin sequestrating carbon, and you can continue that almost indefinitely. As long as you can keep grass there, you'll keep on sequestrating carbon in the soil. And following the change in practice, we carried out further carbon audits, and we found that we've gone from emitting 2 tonnes per acre to actually sequestrating about 2 tonnes per acre. Or if you like, for every kg of beef that we sold off the farm, we were sending away a carbon credit, if you like, of about 33 kgs. Now clearly this is quite significant. If we didn't have to plough ground every year to grow cereals for animals to eat, then we would be saving a lot of fuel, but also getting to the point where we could sequester a great deal more than we are at the moment. Or the other way of saying is we emit a lot less. This is a complete no-brainer in terms of the carbon economy that we have, and I sincerely believe that we should be following this kind of practice. Now, how can you as a consumer be involved in that? Clearly, the first thing you need to do is to find out who is actually producing this kind of food and going there to get it, rather than just buying through the normal chain, because at the moment there is very little of this kind of meat around. but there is scope for all of our meat really to be grown in this kind of system. And really what I would suggest is get friendly with somebody like me, or get involved with the Pasture Fed Livestock Association, and you should be able to get all of the meat that you are ever going to require and actually be sequestering carbon at the same time. Perennial green vegetation, such as you find in a permanent grassland, acts as a carbon pump, taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, converting it through photosynthesis, and then transporting it throughout the plant, and especially down into the roots. And as the plant grows and then dies and grows and dies, the biota that's in the soil takes advantage of all that dead root material and grows the overall organic matter in the soil, such that we can be actually sequestering a couple of tonnes per annum in our soil on the farm. And of course this makes a huge impact on the overall carbon balance of our business.